Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we're choosing, right? What I am discussing in this video is the fact that we are just passing through. If you see me looking away, I'm just looking at some notes. When I say that we're just passing through, it's not some doom and gloom approach to being human and like everybody has to go. I mean, we already know this, right? But we're just passing through. I was having a discussion the other day, and I was mentioning the idea that we were talking about millions of years of human existence, and we were talking about the different phases, like the Roman Empire, the Greek period. I don't know if it was an empire or not, but the different eras in which we've lived through, right? And even some of the African studies we were looking at, and like, how 14,000 years they pretty much, ran the entire earth. And so it was just these little snippets of time. And I was like, but just look how quick we are here, though. And it kind of threw everyone off in the conversation because I brought it to the current reality. I was like, look how quick we are here. I was like, we're talking about things that's happened 10,000 years ago and 20,000 years ago and stuff. And I was like, we're literally here, most of us, for less than 100 years, for like our entire existence. And I was like, if you don't do anything with that information, what I would hope that it would show you is that we are just passing through, and that you cannot live this entire existence in a stressed out and manic type of way when it's just not worth it to be in that way. Anything you're worrying about, anything you got going on, it's just not worth it. It's all going to be gone. It's all going to pass, right? So one thing that I've noticed when I think about this, that approach to life, like remembering that I'm just passing through, is that it's okay when other people don't understand my approach to life. It's okay when they misunderstand me and they don't see life in the way that I see it, or they don't have grace for the way that I decide to approach life. I'm okay with that, perfectly okay with it. I think that that is something that everyone has to kind of work on throughout our lives and get okay with over and over again. Because if we might find a lot of relaxation and a lot of peace in the way that we see the world and the way that we operate, but it doesn't mean that everyone else is going to understand that. And it's really a practice of just becoming more and more comfortable with choosing what you choose, being what you want to be, and getting on with it, and realizing that at some point, everybody that's surrounded you, everybody that's judging, everybody that has something to say, will all be gone from this existence. And then by the end of it, do you want to be a person that sat up there and was kind of caught up on everything that everybody else wanted or needed from you and never truly lived out or enjoyed this beautiful existence that we have here on earth, right? People may perceive you as cold sometimes whenever you have that type of mindset. I know that I have been perceived as cold. And it's not that. I can be indifferent about things that I don't think is going to be something that I should keep on my docket, right? When you have a docket, it's like things that you should remember and things that are like coming up next. There are some things that I just don't think that should be on there. And I'm just like, nah, that's not working for me. That's not the way I want to experience this. That's not the way that I want to see this world. Those are not the kind of people I want to spend time with. That's not the mindset I want to indulge myself in. So to a lot of people or to a lot of environments, that may come off as being cold. And it's not necessarily something that you have to give a lot of attention to, but more so it's important to know that that is what is going to be the outcome in a lot of places and in a lot of environments, right? And you can't even control it. And I don't think you should even try to control it in any kind of way. It's something that you need to learn to accept and be like, okay, I'm being misunderstood and I'm being seen as this, and maybe not misunderstood. Maybe that is the true, genuine belief system that someone has, is that when someone shows this type of characteristic, that means they're a cold person. And you just have to accept that that is okay, right? That's why there's so many people in the world, because you can move around until you get to environments where you feel the most whole and the most complete and the most celebrated and not tolerated, Another thing that comes from it, you may be perceived as uncooperative, right? If you choose not to participate in life the way that other people are participating in life. So sometimes when you don't value the same things that, maybe the majority might value, you can be seen as an uncooperative person or an honorary person, or what is another word they use for I forget the word. It's not indifferent. That's another term. But honorary, that's a good term to use for it. You can be seen as a person like that, disagreeable. That's the word, right? Like it's so awful to be disagreeable. Sometimes, if you're being honest with yourself, you do disagree. You disagree with the way people are approaching life, and you decide, I don't agree with that. And so sometimes people can see you as disagreeable or honorary or hard to deal with or something just because you have a different perspective, or you like to make your own choices, or you like to see the world the way that you choose to see it. And you're open to seeing it in new ways, but you're not necessarily going to cooperate or do things that are just being done for show, things that are just being done so that everybody in the room feels more comfortable, right? I've been a person that's missed things that a lot of people thought were things you shouldn't miss, but I've missed them at different pivotal times in my life. And I felt like, you know what, this is the best decision that works for me right now. And this is just what I'm going to do. And so sometimes in those instances, you can be seen as a person that is disagreeable or honorary or unsupportive or something like that, just because you genuinely have a different perspective. Sometimes you're in environments where people would rather you lie to yourself and lie to them in order to make everybody else feel comfortable. And if you're past that sort of interaction, you have to be really comfortable with accepting what comes along with being that person, right? Being detached from the responses you receive from others can also be frustrating for them, because sometimes people react to you in a certain way and they want you to respond to certain interactions. And when you don't have the capacity or the bandwidth or the desire to respond to people in kind with what they're giving out to you, a lot of times you can find yourself being on the other end of someone else's frustration. And it's not something that you really want to welcome into your life, because I know a lot of people might get happy or excited when their interactions are causing someone else frustration. And that's not a mindset I think is really truly healthy, though. I don't like being on the other end of other people's frustration, but I do know that it happens sometimes, because when you're being honest and true with yourself, you can't help but rub people the wrong way. And when they approach you in a way that's outside of your boundaries, that's, you know, that you might see as bullying, as you might see as pushy or something like that, or like whatever you see it as, you decided, I'm not going to interact with people when they come at me in this sort of way. That's just not something that I'm going to do, right? When people are not showing up in a way that I feel like people should show up in life and be consistent and dependable and all these sort of things, or even just, you know, explain something that it went awry, or be accountable or acknowledge it, things like that, I just choose not to interact, because I feel like the people know exactly what's happening most of the time. But if not, you can only spend so much time dipping down in your frequency to answer them at the level at which they're operating. You can decide to do it, but it's not ultimately going to work in your favor, right? And I do believe in cortisol levels being raised by non-tangible thoughts impacting us in a negative way. So I really take my time and energy, even when I receive certain kind of text messages, things like that. I'm much better at sitting on it for a while and thinking, do I want to respond to this? Do I need to interact with this? Because it's just not something that I'm just doing anymore. It's not a negative thing for me, but it can be a very frustrating thing for somebody that's on the receiving end of it, because they don't know how to access you, because you're just in two different spaces. And it's pretty much being detached. It's like you can't get caught up in the emotion of what's being done, because you'll get dragged in every single time, right? And another thing is too, what I've noticed, whenever you kind of have the idea of the mindset of like, you know, most of this is just fleeting. We're just passing through, and I'm enjoying playing the game. I'm enjoying doing the stuff. I'm enjoying creating a good life. It's just really fun for me, right? You may be misunderstood as being a broken person to the untrained spiritual eye. I find that's a lot of the comments you might receive, or a lot of the feedback you might receive, is that you're broken in some kind of way because you're not deeply feeling every single thing that's happening in the outside environment, right? Especially if you're a person that's not heavily into stuff like politics or religion or something like that. People can think that somehow that you're broken because those things are not in your space. But they don't realize is that you've already cycled through so much of those things that you've grown into a level of understanding the world as not something that needs to be fixed all the time, and just something that often needs to be observed for the most part, right? Sometimes we're putting our hands in things and we're interacting with things that don't even deserve or even require our attention, right? Because we don't have all of the information. We don't know the ins and outs of it. And so we're just jumping in and kind of yelling with the rest of the crowd. And so sometimes I think that it can easily, by the untrained spiritual eye, you can easily be seen as a person that's broken or that's unevolved or something, because that's the automatic go-to when you don't see the world the same way as someone else, or when you're not at the same level of understanding possibly as someone else, right? And that's kind of the gist of this. I just want to get across the idea that we are just passing through, and it's not like a doom and gloom approach to kind of humanity. It's just a reality of humanity. There's nobody and nothing that's going to sit here in its original form and just stay on this earth and just be here. And I don't really think ultimately that most people even want that. I think that what makes life so beautiful is the fact that it is something that is fleeting, that it is something that is going away. And if we find ourselves bogged down in environments around people or places or things and just decide, okay, well, I'm just gonna give up on life and sit here for the next 50 years and do this, that's very depressing and sad for a lot of people. And so doing things and staying active and taking care of your body and taking care of your mind and growing and learning and constantly developing yourself is a way that we truly learn to fully savor and enjoy this human experience, right? Because other than that, like, what are we here for? We're not here to just, spoil and then expire. You know what I mean? We're here to savor and enjoy and keep growing and learning and expanding to the highest version of whatever this existence is over and over and over again, because it can happen until you actually leave this earth. It's never too late to keep expanding and growing and changing and believing in the best in the world and creating things that still find a way to inspire you in some kind of way. And I think it's a beautiful experience. But if we get lost of the mindset of that we're all just passing through, we can really start taking too much of it too deeply into heart. And I'm not saying it's easy to be that way, but it's definitely not truly beneficial when we get caught up on what a temporary circumstance for way too long, right? Because it's all going to pass, and that's just how life works. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.